My pleasure now to introduce our speaker, Dr. Ty Belknap. He's been doing SEO since before it was called search engine optimization, which started in 1995, and has been running internet marketing companies since 2002. Dr. Ty has 3 degrees in leadership, including a Doctor of Strategic Leadership in Life Coaching. He is author of 3 books and has been published in many publications, including Reader's Digest. Please help me welcome Dr. Ty Belknap.
We're going to talk about applied SEO techniques. What we're going to do today is I'm going to show you the 2 top ways to get your website onto page 1 of the search engines. And you're going to start today to actually do that. So if we look at the code of a website, this is one of my websites here. So we look at the code and start getting into making sure that the HTML language is English, UTF character sets, and viewport is right. I mean, really just delve deep into the coding of a website. I guarantee you I'll put you to sleep in about 30 seconds. I'm not going to do that today. What I am going to talk to you today about is, like I said, the top 2 things that you can do to actually get, and I really mean you can do. Anybody can do this. Top 2 things you can do to get to get onto page 1. Well, let's just call it what it is, Google. And those 2 things are content and blogs. You do these 2 things right, and you will, I won't say will, you could be on page 1 of Google. It does also depend on what your competition is like, what they're doing. But these are the 2 things that I do when companies hire me to do search engine optimization. There are a lot of different definitions of search engine optimization. And a lot of different people have different definitions. So I'm going to tell you what my definition is so we can have a baseline of what I'm talking about. Search engine optimization is nothing more than the tools and the techniques a person uses to get a website into the top of the search engines. It's that simple. All the other techie, nerdy stuff that you hear, like SEM, SMM, CPC, all those acronyms are completely different things. Search engine optimization is a tool in a digital marketing toolbox. It's just one of the tools. Another tool is SEM, search engine marketing. But it's different. Search engine marketing is like when you go into Google, you type in what you're trying to find and you get the paid ads up top. That's search engine marketing. SMM is social media marketing, doing the ads on Facebook, LinkedIn, stuff like that. All I'm going to talk about today is natural search engine optimization. The big difference between the 2. Search engine marketing is quick. You give Google enough money, they'll put you to the top. Right now. You stop paying them, you're gone. Natural SEO, what you do today, could take 6 months to a year for the search engines to actually index it and see it right. But once it's there, it stays there for a long time. Not to say that it will take 6 months. I've seen things get onto page 1 within 3 weeks. Like I said, a lot of it depends on your competition. I've been doing SEO since 1995. Yes, I'm that old. I was working at Microsoft at the time, and we were about ready to launch Windows 95, for those of you that are familiar with it. It was the first major change in an operating system, at least a Windows operating system, ever. And we had 4 volumes of techie stuff, about all 4 together was about this thick. We spent a month learning everything we could on how to troubleshoot this new operating system. And within 2 hours of launching Windows 95, we threw half of it out. It didn't work. We had to redo everything. But while I was on the help desk answering telephone calls, I realized that probably 15 to 20% of the calls that I got were things that people could fix themselves. And within a couple of minutes, I actually felt bad for people because they were waiting online for like 3 hours just to get an answer to a question that took about 3 minutes. So I developed my first website in 1995. And you got to remember, things were a little bit different back then. There weren't specialized things like Google, or even YouTube, or Facebook, or even MySpace. None of that was there in 95. So we didn't have a lot of the advanced stuff we have today. But Even then, we had ways to where we could see how many people would go to certain web pages. And I noticed that people would go to some web pages more than others, even if the web pages that they weren't going to had better information. I realized at that time it was all about keywords. That's when it first dawned on me about SEO. That was back in the days when there was like InfoSeek, Alta Vista, if you remember it. There was this upstart at the time called Yahoo that was just starting to come out. And they were actually, you could actually pay them at the time to do SEO on a website to get you to the top of the search engines, one of the services they offered. And so I learned a lot about what they did as well. Between 1995 and 2019, a lot of stuff has changed, obviously. A mountain, YouTube. You couldn't even do videos on a website in 1995. You were lucky if you could do an image. So a lot has changed, but a few things haven't. And the number one thing that is the same from 1995 to 2019, more than 20 years later, like I already said, is content. You get your content right, you can be on page one and you can get a ton of people to your website. But there's one thing I want you to remember. It's not about getting people to your website. Don't run for the door yet. I can show you how to get 1 million people to your website in the next 60 days. I can do it easily. I've done it before. A client challenged me to do this back in, about 2004, and I did it. And I told my client what I was doing ahead of time so that they knew that I wasn't doing anything bad. It was all up above board. I did this high-quality web page on their site. Within 60 days, we had almost 1 million people to their website, and their sales didn't go up one single penny. Because the web page I did was about a controversial actress at the time. It had nothing to do with their products or services. What you want to do is you want to target your market to get the right people. Because, come on, it's better to have 10 people with cash in hand that want to buy your product or service than 1 million people that don't, right? Because what's the use of marketing to the 1 million people? So how do you market to the right people? You ask questions. And this is where you start putting pen to paper for those of you that want to take notes. And if you don't want to take notes, I hope you do anyway. What do you do? Think about it. What do you do? And write that down. And I'm going to pick on 2 industries because there's 2 industries I've worked with a lot. I'm going to pick on real estate and plumbing. I had a guy come to me one day. He said, I want to be at the top of the search engines for plumbing. Now, it was a lot nicer about the way I said it than I'm going to say today. But I asked things like, are you sure? He said, yes, I want to be number 1 for plumbing. The only problem is, how many people here would type in plumbing if they needed a plumber? Exactly. He wanted to be at the top of the search engines for a keyword that people weren't looking for. So I asked him, what do you really do? And his answer surprised me. What I didn't realize is there's at least 5 or 6 different types of plumbers. There are people that do nothing but work on the pipes that go from the street to your house. There are people that do nothing but work on the pipes that go from the house to the street. We haven't even gotten inside your house yet. There's real estate, or residential. There's commercial. There's industrial plumbers. It's amazing how many different plumbers there are. So we started really digging, and that's why I have it twice. What do you do? And what do you really do? Might do plumbing. I fix pipes inside the house, or the apartment building, or commercial properties, whatever it might be. Real estate agents. Do you want to be at the top of the search engines for real estate? I don't know anybody that would type that word in. Another perfect example is me. I would love to be at the top of the search engines for SEO. But the problem is, I would say anybody, most people that type SEO are looking for tips and tricks on how to do it themselves. They're not looking to hire me. So it's better for me to be at the top for SEO company than it would be SEO. So start thinking about keywords that define what your company is. And this is really important because I like you to stick to probably no more than maybe 50 for now. And yes, I'm joking. Try to find 10 keywords that describe what you do right now. And this is important. This is step 1, and we've got several steps to do. What keywords describe your business? Techie words are okay. But if you have techie words, you want to also give a definition for them. SEO. Probably everybody here knows SEO. But how many different definitions have you heard of it? So if you have, and every industry has techie words. My stepson is in construction. He was helping me do something in my office this summer, and he wanted me to get this nail, and I went and I grabbed a nail and I grabbed it, and he goes, no, I wanted you to get blah, blah, blah nail. Not blah nail. course, I don't know either of the words he said. I didn't know there were different kinds of nails. And I should know because I have like 50 different types, in my garage. They're all scattered together. I just grab one when I need it. And then he yells at me. So, every industry has techie words. So when you use a techie word, describe what it is. And here is one of the tricks for you. If you're not sure what to write down, I'm going to give you some homework. Aren't you so glad you're here today? What's most important to your clients? Contact your current clients or your past clients and ask them, if you were to search for my type of business on the internet, what words would you type in? You may be very surprised. They may be completely different from what you're writing down now. But especially if you get 3 or 4 clients that say the same type of words, if they're different than yours, throw yours out. Because if they're looking for you that way, then a whole bunch of other people are too. So the keywords are very important. Now, I told you once not to run out the door, and I'm going to tell you again, don't run out the door yet. You probably already saw that I'm recommending to write 1,000 to 2,000 word articles on each of your top 10 keywords. How many people are excited about that? Yeah, I thought so. 1, 2. Hey, better than I thought. I've got a super secret hint for you. But there was a study done that just came out about 2 months ago about the web pages that are on page 1 of Google. And 95% of those have at least 2,000 words on them. That doesn't mean to make your main page full of text. It doesn't have to be your main page. A lot of websites have a page other than your main page on the first page of Google. That's the advantage of it. But start looking at your top 10 words and 1,000 to 2,000 word articles about each of them. Now, I would say, don't do it too quick. I'd say by the end of the week, it'll be fine. We're in January. Why not make this a 2019 goal? You might look at that and say, there's no way I can do that. But what if there's only one every 5 weeks? You do one every 5 weeks, you'll have 10 by the end of the year. Here's my super secret hint. You don't even have to write them down. Grab your trusty cell phone, hit the voice recorder, and dictate it, and then have someone transcribe it. Don't have anyone to transcribe it? Here's the super secret hint. Hire someone else to do it. Better yet, hire someone else to write it. On the back of the piece of paper I gave you is a section called freelancers. There are many, many different freelancer sites. The 2 that I use a lot are Fiverr.com and Upwork.com. There's a lot of other ones, but I like those simply because of the way that they do things. Let me tell you the difference between the 2. Fiverr.com is generally less expensive freelancers. You could hire someone for $20 or $30 to write a 2,000 word article. You will get a $20 to $30 worth article. It's not going to be completely done. There will be some editing you'll have to do yourself. But do you agree with me? It's a lot easier to edit a 2,000 word article than it is to write it from scratch. So that's the advantage of it. What Fiverr does is you can get on there. You can say, hey, I'm looking for content writers. They give you a big, long list of content writers. You look through them all, pick one that you like, hire them. When you hire them, you have to pay up front. But it goes into an escrow account. It doesn't go straight to the designer. That way, if they don't deliver what they say they're going to do, you don't have to pay them. That's one of the things I like about Fiverr. And Upwork actually does the same thing. That's why I like these 2 companies, is they won't get the money if they don't provide quality work. So you hire a designer, tell them, hey, I want a 2,000 word article. Be as detailed as you can. I hired a designer recently to do an article about depression and chiropractic. And because situational depression, like people that get depression over the holidays or over a breakup or something like that, chiropractic can actually help with those things sometimes. I was amazed about that. So I told him I asked him, to do an article about depression and chiropractic. He comes back with an article that starts with, what is depression? Well, when you've suffered childhood abuse, and goes into all these really deep things, I'm sorry, adjusting your back isn't going to help get away from childhood abuse. So I told him, I said, well, we can't do this. He had to rewrite the article. And he did, because I hired someone that did free revisions. So there's some things you want to be sure of on it, but you also want to be as detailed as you can. How many words, what it's about, a little bit of detail of what it's about. The more you give them, the better the article they will write. And by the way, this was a Fiverr article. So like I said, with Fiverr, $20 to $30, you'll get a 2,000 word article. With Upwork, it's going to cost you about $120 to $130. So if you're on a budget, Fiverr is generally better. If you've got the money, Upwork is generally better because you're going to get a higher quality article. You might have to edit You might have to edit maybe 5% of the article versus 20% of the Fiverr article. The other difference with Upwork is you go on there and you say, okay, all the content writers, this is the article that I have that I want done. This is how much I'm willing to pay. This is my top budget. Who wants to do it? And then all sorts of people give you bids. I'm going to warn you about Upwork is if you say, I have $120, 95% of the people will give you a $120 bid. If you say, I have $10, they'll give you a $10 bid. It's always going to be pretty much the top of what you have available. And of course, however little or however much you spend, the higher quality of a freelancer you're going to get. I found pretty high quality freelancers for about $120, $130 is usually the average for Upwork. So think about it. You can hire, you got your top 10 keywords. Hopefully you're working on those or you'll do your homework and finish that when you get home. You hire a freelancer to do it for you. You're not spending a lot of time to do it. Even $120 isn't a lot of money for what you're going to get in return for a high quality article on your website. So you're getting these articles written. Well, great. What are you going to do with them? There's two ways to do it. Put it on your website. Do new pages or put them on existing pages. Do you have a frequently asked questions page on your website? If not, that's a great spot for a 2,000 word article. And it's going to be full of keywords that the search engines love. Already have a frequently asked questions page? How about the top 10 reasons why to hire my kind of company? I have a top 8 reasons why to hire an SEO company. It's full of great keywords. Search engines love it, and people like it because it distinguishes why hire me rather than do it yourself. So there's two of your 10 articles right there if you want. Now, the other place you want to put your articles is on your blog. If you don't have a blog, get one, period. Exclamation point. I had a client that pushed against me for years on getting a blog. And there's ways now, I love the changes that are being made on the internet. It's just amazing. I can go and I can tell you how much a website is worth for its keywords now. And so the keywords that are on the website, I can actually go and I can find out how much that website would be worth if you had to pay for those keywords. So I had a client that pushed against me forever. We've been flatlining to where her main page is worth about $8,000 a month in keywords. I finally got her to get a blog up there. Within 6 months, her website was worth over $17,000 a month. It more than doubled, just because we put the blog up there and started putting content articles up there. So like I said, if you don't have a blog, get one. Now, what I'm going to say now is a personal preference, but I'm going to tell you why it's a personal preference. If you're going to do a blog, do WordPress. I don't work for WordPress. I don't make any money from WordPress. For most of the time I've done SEO, I hated WordPress. It didn't work. But they made a change about 2 years ago, and now WordPress works with SEO very well. There are two big places that people put blogs, blogspot.com and wordpress.org. Don't use them. What you're doing is you're creating an article here so that search engines will go here to find your article, not your website. You want people on your website. The more you can get them to be on your website and stay on your website, the better. Even if you have it here and it links to your website, it doesn't do anywhere near as good for you as it does for them. The good news is if you've got it in either of those places, you can move it to your own website if you have to. A caveat to this if you don't have a blog. If you don't have hosting that will allow for a WordPress blog, some hosting has their own blogs. Like I said, this is personal, but I know that WordPress works great for SEO, and that's what we're here for today. If you don't have a hosting that does WordPress blogs, on the back, the other reference is for Cool with a K web hosting. And that does blogs. I know that because that's my hosting. It works very well, but you want a WordPress blog no matter if it's your own hosting or not. Most hosting places do allow it, so it shouldn't be that difficult to do it. Don't hire a freelancer to do your blog. Not to do your blog, but to install it. If you don't have a blog now, whoever you hire to do it, and I do recommend that you hire them, I'll tell you why here in just a second, you're going to have to give them your core login and password. You hire someone that you don't know, they change your password, you're locked out of your website. And then they can do all sorts of hacker stuff to it. And it can happen to anybody. I had a problem with a WordPress website that I had designed a few years ago, and I hired someone just to make some changes on it. I even had him create his own login so he didn't have the master password. He did the changes I wanted. I did make the mistake of hiring someone I'd never met before. He got done, he left, everything was great, except that he left what's called a logic bomb on the website. 2 weeks later, boom, I had French casinos all over my website. Now, I have nothing against going to casinos, but I don't speak French, so I couldn't understand what they were trying to do. The big thing is, I didn't even realize that those casinos were there, this guy did it pretty darn good. I got a nice email from Google. We see that you're a hacker. We are blacklisting your website. Have a nice day. Thanks, Google. I had to write back and say, please, please, please. And I explained to them what went on. It took me 3 days to get all this junk off. And finally got it off. Contacted Google, told them it was off. Send me an email back. They say, okay, we see that everything's gone. It looks good. We're going to watch your website for the next year to make sure that nothing comes back. Now, in Google speak, that means we're going to sandbox your website for a year. It's not going to go down in the search engines, but no matter what you do, it won't go up either. You're stuck for a year. May as well design a new website at a new place and start marketing it for a year, because for 1 year, that website couldn't do anything. Luckily for me, it was a website that wasn't doing a lot at the time. So you got to be really careful when you hire freelancers, especially if you're giving them logins and passwords. Now, if you've got a freelancer you've worked with for 6, 8, 12 months, they've been doing articles for you, they've been doing other stuff for you, there's a trust factor there, yeah, go for it. I know people that have hired freelancers on day one and given them passwords and never had a problem. I'm just lucky that way. So create a WordPress blog on your website. It's very important. Don't trust social media. Remember what I said in the beginning? If you do post on social media, copy your posts to your blog. If you post on your blog, go ahead and copy it to social media. Now let me promote WordPress just a bit more. WordPress has some cool little things on it. When you have a WordPress blog, there's an area in there where you can tell it, if I send an email to a specific email address, it will become a blog. So you could be sitting here right now, grab out your cell phone because you have an idea to tell your clients, do an email, hit send, boom, blog post. Isn't that kind of cool? So let's back it up though. You've hired your freelancer. They send you an article. The title of the article is the subject of the email. You put the rest of it in the body, hit send. Now the article is a blog post. Took you, what, 5 minutes? 5 minutes isn't bad for writing a 2,000-word article and posting it, is it? Let's take it one step further. WordPress has a plugin to where you can set it up to it automatically links to all of your social media sites. You do everything I just said, it hits the blog, and it goes boom, out to all of your social media all at once. You don't even have to know anything about WordPress once it's set up. It's pretty darn cool. So, like I said before, be wary of giving freelancers logins or passwords unless you know and trust them. And I'd say that for anybody. I wouldn't give anyone your login and password unless you know and trust them. Local companies are a bit more reliable simply because you know where they live. All right, thank you, everybody. Everything I talked about today, plus a lot more, is in my book, Timeless SEO Secrets. It's available on Amazon. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Just making about copying and post to or from your blog and how you can just hit send and will go out to all of your followers. Can you just...
Okay, in WordPress, she asked if I could speak a little bit more about how to copy and paste the post so it would automatically go out to everybody. WordPress actually has an area in there that you can enable, and you can create an email address. A cryptic one is what you want, so no one else can find it. And then you just send an email to that address. Everything else is automatic. Someone here? Yeah.
Let's say you become number one or number 2 or 3 or whatever, first page.
Yeah.
How long can you stay there?
2 days. She asked if once you get to page 1 or 2, how long can you stay there? The answer is 2 days. I'm joking.
Well, I mean, if you have to, if you don't keep logging, will you fall off the first page?
It's a very good question. I had a website that I got onto page 1 in 3 weeks. That's not normal. And I never did any more work for them. They're still on page 1. That was 5 years ago. They have 2 competitors. I have another client that we have to do 2 hours every single day just to keep them on page 1 because it's the most competitive keyword in the entire country. And so it all depends on how competitive. It's really about what are your competitors doing. You know, you got real estate. I hate to say this, but criminal attorneys, plumbers. Those are all highly competitive keywords. You may have to do a half an hour to an hour of work every day on that. For as far as blog posts go, I would recommend 1 a week. Okay? But remember, you've got your cell phone, you're sitting in the doctor's office, you think, oh, I just thought about something that my clients might like. Type it into your email, send it off to your blog, there's a blog post. It doesn't have to be huge. Remember, this is just the 1,000 to 2,000 are about your top 10 keywords. I do blog posts that are 50 words. I might see an article that I like and copy the where to find the URL, where to find that article, and do a blog post. Say, hey, I like this article. Check out number 4. What's that? 20, 30 words, but it's a blog post. So not all of them have to be huge. Yeah. Right now, in Pierce County, the most competitive keyword is DUI attorney. It is January.
Tell that to my teenagers.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
How to choose the 10 keywords.
The best way to choose, yes, how do you choose the 10 keywords? The best way to do it, like I said, is talk to your clients. Because we get so deep into our businesses. I mean, I probably said a couple of things today that you looked at me like, what? And I didn't mean to, but I've been doing it for so long that I don't think about it. And you do the same thing. Ask your clients, if they're going to look for you on the search engines right now, what are they going to type in? That's the best thing you can do. You might be very surprised at what they say. Yeah.
How do we find the value of words? Like you were saying, DUI attorney. I'm wondering how competitive, because I'm a mobile disc jockey.
Mm-hmm.
How do I, quantify the competition?
Yeah.
Like, how do I figure that out?
Yeah.
Rank at the top and stay there.
Okay. My recommendation would be to hire a local SEO company. There are actually lots of ways you can do it. There's one website called SEMRush. They will allow you to look up a little bit for free. After that, it's $100 a month. So we hire them because we use it for a lot of stuff, but it's not the kind of thing for most people want to pay $100 a month for this kind of information. But they do allow you to look up a little bit of it for free. And there's other websites out there too. SEMrush is the best right now. Yeah.
So I'm busy running my business. Do I buy your book or do I hire you?
I'd say both. Yeah. It's completely up to you. The Timeless SEO Secrets is actually meant for people that are more interested in doing it themselves. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
For businesses, for new businesses, and maybe it's not just for new businesses, but one of the things that staying on that first page, I even fell into a situation where I was typing in my own information, my own name, and not finding myself on Google.
Right.
And I've done the Google My Business and some of that. Is there what could be another reason for that? And it's not an extremely competitive
Right.
area where.
That's a great question. He was asking why he can't find himself on the websites. Yeah, or your business name. Yeah.
Why am I not showing up
Yeah.
on my maps? Where's all of that?
There's two possibilities. One is Google just hasn't been able to index it yet, which actually is it's an SEO issue. So Google probably hasn't been made aware fully of it in the right ways. If you have a website and your company isn't, Acme Widgets or something that everybody has, or Johnson & Johnson or something, if you have a regular name and you have a website and you type in your business name and it doesn't show up, whoever designed your website did a terrible job. Sorry. Because even the most basic people that do a website, that's almost automatic.
What can a business, just to expand on that, what can a business owner do to get Google to speed up that indexing? Or is there anything that, what would you recommend in the immediate?
At that point, I would actually recommend hiring somebody to take a look at what's going on. And I'm not saying hire us and hire whoever you want, but to hire somebody that's very familiar with search engine optimization and that kind of stuff to see what's going on with those websites, to see if they can figure out what might be going wrong. Yeah.
So should the flow of information in respect to social media and blogging, should it go from blogging to social media, or should it go from social media to blogging? I mean, like when we're posting, are we posting to social media and then piggybacking?
So which do you post to first, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a tough question, because if you post to your blog first and it goes to social media companies discount posts that have a link to go away from them. And so not as many people are going to see it. If you post to social media, your blog will never see it unless you manually post to both. So yeah, it's
just shooting to both.
and unfortunately for the amount of time that it takes, yeah. manually posting to both is the best way to do it. Yeah.
You've heard of the company Hearsay?
Not offhand.
So that's a company that I used to use, and we would put our website, and then we'd add the content to it that we want, and, and we could choose Facebook and LinkedIn, and it would post that article, that picture, that event to all 3 sites.
There's lots of companies that do that.
So
Yeah.
if you know companies that's similar to that.
Oh, HubSpot does that. Yeah, there's a lot that do. Yeah. Yeah.
About the links in social media.
Oh, remember how I said if you post a blog post, it'll automatically go out to your social media sites? Well, what that does is it'll say a couple of sentences, then it'll say like, you'll click here to read more. And that sends the people back to the blog. Well, social media sites don't like that. They don't like people going away from the social media sites. And so they see that, and they won't let as many people see the post.
Get a lot of interaction.
There you go.
That is
Yeah. By the way, page likes are going away also, for those of you that don't know that yet.
What else goes away?
Page likes. Gone. Not post likes, but page likes. If you've got a business page, you notice how difficult it is to see page likes anymore? Yeah, Facebook is actually completely get rid of them. They want to make more money. Yeah, with Microsoft owning LinkedIn, I have a feeling that we will be seeing a lot more LinkedIn stuff in Bing results pretty soon. Another thing that you may not know about, and I don't think I'm talking about this next month, so I'll talk about it now. If you look at some of the biggest companies that advertise on Facebook, I mean, these companies spend $1 billion a year plus on advertising, like Nike or Reebok, or there's a huge clothing company too. They all, as of January 1, stopped all of their advertising. Facebook. Yeah.
Why?
They haven't told me yet. The CEOs don't answer my calls as much as I'd like.
About a half hour, 45 minutes before I got here, said that they're not seeing results because Facebook is doing the Facebook thing and keeping people on Facebook instead of allowing them to talk.
Yeah.
And they're finding they're not getting the results they got 6 months ago.
Yeah, and whenever you see someone not doing something, it's usually simply because they're not making enough money off of it. And I found that really interesting because I always thought that Facebook advertising was pretty lucrative. But when you've got these big companies that are going away from that, it's interesting to know. Thank you very much, everybody.